good day. Today I wanted to share with you my day 10 in my December daily and an insert that I did between days 10 and 11. I actually did not record day 11. I had started recording it and then my camera went dead, and instead of waiting for it to charge, I just did my December daily day 11. It was pretty simple page. Hopefully I will remember to do a flip through at the end of this project so I can show you kind of the whole album all together, and you can see day 11 at that point. But for today, I'm just working on day 10 and then an insert that I'm going to be putting in between those two pages. First, I decided to work on this card that said right now. I thought I was going to leave it like it was, but it just wasn't doing it for me. So instead, I'm going to cover up most of the card, but I wanted the tan color that was on the card, so I didn't want to cover the entire card up. So what I'm basically doing is flipping the card over. I added some snow and cocoa paper to the top that has this cute little reindeer that I thought went well with the page. And then I'm adding this scallop piece of paper here just to kind of help transition between the reindeer and the kind of taupey brown paper. And I want to cover up this right now. I thought I was going to use that Elf Was Here stamp that I stamped out, but it just isn't going to work. It doesn't fit quite right. So instead of messing with that card, I'm going to move on to some other card just to think about how I want to finish off that bottom card that I was working on earlier. So here I thought I would bring some red in with the elf there in the bottom right photo. It was a lot of red, and I thought I needed to bring that red across the page a bit more because it just seemed like it was too overwhelming to have just the red in the one corner. So you can see here that I'm kind of making three places where I have red. I added some washi tape to that top 3x4 card before I put the die cut on, and then I had this magic kind of acetate kind of piece that came in an Ellie Edwards kit, and I'm just going to staple that on to the photo here. And this is one of my coworkers. She's pregnant, and so we had a little baby shower for her, so I thought magic was appropriate. And then I thought this little embellishment that says do not open till December 25th was cute because, she's about ready to pop any day now, so I thought that was a cute way to add a little embellishment to the page. And so I just staple those on, and then I add a little adhesive. So I decided I wanted to add that little strip with a little car on it that covers up the right now perfectly. And then I have these little pieces that I got from Tim Holtz that I added some twine through, and I'm going to add those two on the page as embellishments. One is the day, and the other one is just a word. So I added the little picture of my dog to the top left. I mounted that on some white cardstock so it would pop off the page a bit more. And that little token says jingle, and I like that too. I always use the glue dots for adhesive on these metal pieces just to make sure that everything sticks really well. Any of the other adhesives don't seem to work as well, and glue dots are perfect for this. So I wanted to add a little bit of red behind this little strip here. I thought it was getting a little lost and it needed a little bit of a border. I just glued the washi tape down to a piece of paper and then added the strip on top of that, and it worked out perfectly. I just trimmed around the edges. And that little strip that has a little car on it, it was actually from a branding strip from, I think, one of the papers, maybe the Bella Boulevard? No. Oh, what was it? Bella Boulevard? I can't remember the name brand. But it was one of the papers I used in last year's December Daily, and I thought the little Christmas tree on the car was so cute I had to keep those little parts of the branding strip. Now I'm making a little interactive piece. You can see on my layout there wasn't much place for any journaling. So what I'm going to be doing is make this little flip up card. And I just trimmed the elf picture out a bit more so that it had a little white border around it. And then I will add that to that flip up card. You can see on this I added my journaling using my typewriter. And I did make some boo-boos, but you can't see it too much. I ended up covering it with some white gel pen, and there's a little bit of extra space towards the bottom of the card, so I'm just using that same washi tape I used earlier just to add a little extra to the bottom, and that kind of fills in that empty gap space. So you can see here I'm just using my white gel pen to fix some other little errors, and you can kind of see where I typed, but it's okay. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I didn't want to type it again. You can see it was towards the bottom of the card. I didn't want to type it all over again, so I just kind of covered it up. Now I'm gluing down the little elf, and after I glue that down, I do want to add something to the top inside of that flip. It looked a little plain, so I'm going to pull out some 4x4 paper that I had sitting in my stash, and I really like this heart, so I'm going to glue that down and then just trim off either side so it fits on the card nicely. And then I like how that looks. It just gives a little extra something, and then it also helps stabilize the card a bit. The paper I used for the journaling was a little thin. It's not copy paper, but it's pretty thin paper, and it just kind of helps give it a little bit more body. So now I decided I need a little stitching, and that's pretty much it for day 10. I will show you some close-ups of all the cards here, so you can see, and then I'll move on to the insert next. Now the insert is going to be an envelope. This is an envelope that I got in some mail, and I really liked the size of the window in it, and I thought it was going to be perfect for this insert. So I'm going to just trim it down. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than the size of my photos, and then I will end up gluing all 3 sides and keeping the top open. So the top is actually going to be where I end up pulling the photos in and out. So now I want to cover this envelope, so I picked out a couple different papers. I really like this paper with the trees on it. This is from an Ellie Edwards kit, and then the other 6x6 paper that you see on the right hand side is from a Simple Stories 6x6 paper pad. So I'm just measuring that out and marking with my pencil, trimming it out with my trimmer, just to make sure it's going to fit on the front side of that envelope. And then I'm going to stick this inside the envelope and try to kind of put some marks so I know where I need to cut the paper to have the window in it. Now this is a bit tricky. I don't know, there's probably a better way to do this, but you can see here I'm trying to think about how this is going to work. So I'm just going to stick my pencil in here and just put some light marks. I do put the marks a little bit inside of the line because I don't want the white of the envelope showing. So this is probably, I don't know, maybe not the best way to do this, but it worked for me. So I'm just kind of tracing out the little areas, and then I'm going to take my ruler and then draw the square. And then that's how I'm going to end up cutting this out. And it works out pretty well. The corners were a little tricky because I did want them to be rounded and not square, so that was a bit more tricky to cut, but I will end up just trimming this all out with my X-Acto knife. I was going to use my scissors, but I thought it wouldn't have as nice of a cut. So I'm just going to get my cutting mat out here and then use my X-Acto knife to trim this out. And I end up keeping the inside piece of this paper, and I end up using it on a different layout later on in my album. So you can see here it's all trimmed out. I think it worked pretty well and it fits perfectly. So I am going to now glue this down, but first I'm going to stitch around the edges. And now I'm just making sure everything's going to fit nicely. So just trying to figure that out. Those little windows get really staticky, and like all the animal fur that we have in the house seems to want to stick to those things, so it's a pain in the butt. Oh, actually, before I stitch around that paper, I'm going to work on this card. Because it doesn't fit exactly in front of the envelope, I need to give it a little bit of a base to sit on so it fits better on the envelope. Here I stitched around the entire card with some blue thread. I thought the blue looked nice with the blue background in the picture. And I made this into a little booklet at first. I thought I was going to put something inside of it, but I decided not to. So later on you're going to see that I'm going to cut it in half and then just adhere to both sides together. I probably didn't need to cut it. I could have probably just glued them two together, but for whatever reason I decided to cut it and then glue the two pieces together. I thought this picture needed a little bit of backing, so I'm just trimming out some tissue paper with my ruler, and then I'll add that to the front of this card. You can see I played with it a little bit more. I wanted a little more feathery edges, so I just ripped those off. And then I'm going to glue everything down, and I do use quite a bit of adhesive on this just because I want to make sure it stays with the tissue paper behind it. And there you go. You can see that I stitched the whole piece of paper. I stitched on the outside edge and the inner edge. At first I was just going to do the outside, but I thought it looked like it needed a bit more, so I stitched around the inside of that window piece, and I really like how that turned out using that same blue thread, again just playing off the background of the photo. And I think that looks cute. I think that worked well. Now I'm going to decorate the back. I'm going to keep this relatively simple. I'm just going to use these two pieces of paper, and I'm going to cut a scallop edge on the top paper just to give it a little extra texture. I think it just helps the transition between the two pieces of paper better. I think when you have a straight edge, it just looks funny, like it needs something else. So that scallop just helps to transition that. So I'm just marking this off where I want to cut it to make sure everything fits. And then I'll just trim it out with my trimmer. And of course I cut off some of my lines, so you're going to see that I'm going to have to lay this back down on my envelope and trim again. So you can see here I'm just adding some more marks so I can trim it off widthwise. And then I will glue those two pieces on the back. So while I'm doing that, I want to say thank you guys so much for joining me on this little December daily adventure. If you are enjoying the videos, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. If you have any questions about anything I ever do on my December dailies or anything else, you can always leave those comments below. Or if you just want to chit chat, I love hearing from you guys. So definitely leave a comment. Hopefully after this December daily stuff, I will be working on some more Project Life and some other just junk journaling things. So stay tuned for those. This is day 10, so I do have several more videos that I'll be putting up over the course of the next couple of days. Hopefully you're not getting tired of December daily, and this is still giving you guys some inspiration for your layouts. I know some people work on it during the month, and I know some people wait till the month is over to start working on their pages. So hopefully the videos that I keep putting up will continue to give you guys inspiration for your projects. And you know, if this is December daily, but just because it's December and Christmas does not mean you can't use these kind of ideas for other layouts. It doesn't have to be Christmas themed, so hopefully either way it gives you some kind of inspiration for your projects. So you can see earlier I just punched out those tab punches. I'm going to use that to put this insert into the album. So I just made two of them, and you'll see later how I add those to the side to make this fit in the album. So now I realize that this pocket is really deep, and I have this smaller picture of my daughter that I mounted on that white paper with the stitching around it, and I need a way to get the photos in and out of this insert. So now I'm making this kind of like, I don't know, slider kind of pockety pouchy thing, so you can kind of see how I do that. So I'm just measuring. I want to make sure this fits in the pocket, but then also the photos fit in it, and I want to make something so it has a lip on the bottom. So when you pull it out, it kind of holds everything in, but then you don't see that lip from that little window that I made. So I'm just kind of roughly measuring this, and I am adding some marks just to make sure that I score it at the right spot. So I scored the bottom, and I'm going to score the sides. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these corners out because I want to not have that bulk there, so I don't need those pieces. And then I'm going to fold the bottom up, and then what I'm going to do is I only need a little bit of the sides that I have scored. So I'm going to press those down to make sure that they're nicely flattened, and then I'm just going to trim out little tabs that I'm going to use to adhere to that bottom lip, and then I'm going to end up cutting off the rest of that right and left hand side. So I'm just cutting this at a little bit of an angle so you don't see that once you fold everything in and glue it. And then I will trim off those edges, just making sure everything's burnished down real nicely so it's going to lay flat. Trimming it off just a little bit more to remove some of the extra bulk so it lays flatter when I fold everything in. And then you can see here I'm just going to trim this excess off because I don't need this. Really, mostly it's to remove some of the bulk. You probably could have kept this on there, but I didn't want that. I just wanted that lip at the bottom to hold everything in. So just auditioning things a bit more just to make sure everything's going to fit before I start gluing everything, and I really like how that looks. So I'm going to glue these down with just some liquid adhesive here. Once that is mostly dry, I'm going to stick in my photos, and then I'm going to need something to help me get this in and out of the envelope. So I pulled out some trim that I had in my stash. I really like this little kind of floral trim. I'm just going to cut that out, making sure I don't cut one of the flowers in half. And then I'm going to add that to this little pull that I have. I stitched it with that same blue thread with a zigzag stitch, and then that ends up working perfectly, just making sure my small photo fits in the window nicely. And I really like how that turned out. So now you can see that I'm going to glue those two pieces together. I used white thread as my under thread or whatever it's called, and I didn't want to show that. That's why I ended up gluing these two together instead of just taking the 3x4 card off and put it in the back. So it makes it a little thicker, but it's ended up being okay. And then I stick everything together. And then I will decorate the back of this and the front of this. So now I want to make sure that it's going to fit in the album okay, and I'm going to put those tabs on. So I'm just using the album to kind of measure where it needs to go and trying to figure out which one it's going to be on. It seems like putting them in the middle of each of the 3 rings is the best. So I'm just going to glue the tabs together and then use some liquid adhesive because I want to make sure it's super strong to add the tabs in and just kind of eyeballing it. It's a little finagly, but it ends up working out okay. So just making sure it's all lining up. It's not quite right, so I end up adding a little bit more glue, I think, to this. Oh yeah, it was being very nice. So you can see I keep playing with it. Probably could have cut this out, I'm sorry. All right, everything's good. I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to glue the whole edge of the envelope together. And I try to make sure I keep it on the very, very, very edge of it so that my photos and everything still slip in and out. So here I'm just using my template to punch holes in those little tabs. And then you can see how that fits in the album really nice. So that works out. It swings back and forth well. Now I'm going to work on decorating the front and back. The front I'm going to use a wood veneer piece that says Believe and then a little strip that I had on a sticker sheet. I auditioned a couple different wood veneers, but the Believe I thought looked the best, and I like the white, and it's got a little bit of a glitter to it, so I thought that looked nice as well. So now I'm just pulling out the phrase strips, and I'm going to add one that says, "'Tis the season to be jolly," and I thought that would look nice on the photo, and it just fit with everything. And I like how that Believe just kind of sits on top, and I kind of layer them on top of each other. This, I decided to add this Jolly sticker. This is a sticker that I've had in my stash for quite some time. I believe this might be from Simple Stories. I can't remember if it was from Simple Stories or from last year's sticker sheet. But anyway, I'm just using the sticker sheet to kind of lay that out so I get the same curve, I guess, as they were on the sticker sheet. And then I added some of this twine here, or I don't know what it is, it's string, to make it look like it's on a string, because the string on the sticker sheet was just printed. It wasn't part of the actual sticker. So I wanted to add a little texture to this. And then I thought the ends looked a little plain. I'm going to take that same thread and make 2 little bows. Those bows will just get added on with some little glue. Glue dot probably would have been a little bit better than this liquid glue, but it's okay. It ends up being okay in the end. But because it's liquid glue, it takes a little time to dry, so I'm playing with it a bit and they move around a bit, but in the end it works out okay. So you can see here, I've stuck everything in. You can see how it slides in and out, and that worked out really well. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you are having a great day, and I will be back again soon with another layout.